Back in black. I hit the sack. I'm glad to have you back for the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. Welcome back. Welcome in. It's great to be here for another episode of the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, where I discuss all things college football across the entire landscape, but with a special emphasis on the MIZZOU, the Missouri Football Tigers, and the black and gold of the IOWA, the Iowa Hawkeyes. I am your host, Blair Parks. I'm happy to be with you again from the man cave. It is Thursday, the 23rd, and as you can tell by my attire with the hair, get that done proper like, and breaking out my favorite Iowa jersey, number 6, Tim Dwight, my favorite Hawkeye of all time. That game day is nigh. Week 4 is almost upon us, so this is our Week 4 preview show. We do have games tonight on Thursday, Friday night, but for me, I'm a traditionalist, so to me, kickoff is Saturday, and we are just about 48 hours from kickoff for Week 4. How great is it to say and hear that? Happy fall, by the way. It's the second official day of fall, which that means great things to me. Chili, pumpkins, pumpkin spice, pumpkin lattes, pumpkin beer, but especially college football, and we'll be getting into the main course, the meat and potatoes of conference football season very soon. So what I have entitled today's episode, when you look across the schedule for this upcoming week of Week 4, there are a few conference matchups here and there, but next week is when they are primarily conference games. So I am entitling this episode, The Appetizer. Welcome once again. Those of you who've been with us from day one, I appreciate your viewership. For all of you coming for the first time, welcome to the Black and Gold family. If you could do me a favor, please get the word out there. Like, share, subscribe. Let's keep a good thing going. I'm here sharing my passion, my love of college football with you, and hopefully that can be reciprocating. Feel free, blow me up with comments, blow me up with questions or concerns. Let's just keep it adult-like. Peace and love. Peace and love, as Ringo Starr would say. Just keep it adult-like. Okay? Today's episode, I say this every time. I'll probably say it throughout the entire season. I believe this is the best episode yet. I have 5 topics to discuss and present to you. We have today, first thing, as normal, when there is breaking news off the teletype, and the line, I have some updated storylines and headlines. Then I'm going to go into my pre-Week 4 conference power rankings. Then I'm going to give you kind of list with you or point out some specialized games, my off-the-radar games. Boom, boom. We should cue the golden earring. If I had the rights to golden earring, to some music that'd be playing right now, a little radar love, and also some trap games that need to come to your attention pre-Week 4 that really kind of set up Week 5 and 6 if there are some teams potentially looking ahead or just kind of coming out with a little bit of a letdown. Then after that, I'm going to go into what I need to see and what I forecast, how it's going to go for our beloved Black and Golds this weekend for their matchups. And then the 5th topic will be everybody's favorite segment, our Week 4 Pick'em segment. All right, so let's go ahead and begin and dive right in. But before I do that, once again, the cycles, the ups and downs on this program. You know, I've come out with a lot of energy, firing out of the gate, but got to just take a step back, slow it down. Once again, I'm used to it being a lifelong Chicago Cubs fan, and I believe they're still playing baseball. But since the Cubs have already been eliminated, I'm no longer really paying attention. It's football and only football season for me. I do need to, as usual, when I do make a couple of on-air gaffes, I need to humble myself in front of you, family, and friends. During my week 3 review earlier this week, I did make 2 gaffes that I do want to clear the air. If you joined me or watched that episode, please feel free, check it out if you haven't. I was breaking down some numbers during the very amazing Iowa win streak. Well, not win streak, but the streak of allowing no more than 25 points a game, which has now reached 25 games. I kind of broke that down by the numbers, and I did mention that I said 3, that during this streak they've played 3 Power 5 conference opponents. I meant to say other than the Big Ten, which obviously is a Power 5 conference. So outside of the Big Ten, they've played 3 Power 5 conference opponents. That would be, I did mention Mississippi State from the SEC, also mentioned USC from the Pac-12, and the other one that I mentioned, I also gave you a list of teams that they've played. They have played Iowa State twice, so that would also be a Power 5 conference opponent from the Big 12. So I meant to say other than Big Ten opponents, 3 from other Power 5 conferences. I just basically listed the Pac-12, the SEC, and the Big Ten. So, oops, my bad, but it happens. The other thing that I completely just glanced over when I was giving you, if you recall, every week during the review shows, I give you the list of the unusual suspects, and that is teams that are surprisingly undefeated or surprisingly in the race for conference glory, or teams that find themselves ranked surprisingly. And I skipped right over our Big 12 brethren. So my apologies. I had them written down. I just glanced very quickly over it because I'm unintelligent. I mean, I'm dumb as a box of rocks and sand. I've said that several times on the show. So a late shout out to the unusual suspects out of the Big 12 who find themselves undefeated heading into week 4. The Baylor Bears, down and out the last couple of years, off to a 3-0 start under newer coach Dave Aranda in his second year. But to me, anybody who started last season during the COVID year, didn't have any sort of spring practice, summer camp. So to me, this is kind of their first year. Not officially, but to me, it's their first year as on-the-job coaches, to where their regiment, their scheme, their system is in place and well practiced. So they're off to a 3-0 start. Also, Kansas State, the Wildcats, who are not only 3-0 surprisingly, but find themselves ranked number 25 in the AP poll. Fear the Purple, the team from the Little Big Apple in Manhattan. Keep it up. And the other team that is surprisingly undefeated out of the Big 12 is the Texas Tech Raiders. Big matchup this week. I believe they travel to Austin to take on Texas. But last year, that was an absolute shootout. Texas walked away from Lubbock with a victory. Definitely needed a little bit of miracle near the end there to pull it off last year. So maybe that'll be a better game than advertised. Check back next week for the Week 4 review. I'll let you know. So now, let's dive right into Topic 1, storylines and headlines. And I do have 3 to share with you. 3 that are breaking from the Week 3 review show earlier this week. Out of Utah, now the Utes, the 2 Utes. Now, if you've been watching the show from day 1, I've been very bullish and high, not just on Utah, but on the Pac-12 in general, but definitely fell from grace with their Week 3 performance. Just not good, no bueno. But Utah, Starting quarterback Charlie Brewer, the transfer in from Baylor, who had great success as the Baylor signal caller. He transferred in last season, and I thought he would potentially be the difference maker for this offense, put them over the top. I did pick Utah to win the Pac-12 South. That was my prediction. But after 3 games, and Utah is off to a 1-2 start. They lost week 3 at San Diego State, another one of the unusual suspects out of the Mountain West, who is 3-0 now. Well done, Aztecs, and former Michigan coach Brady Hoke. That being down, they were down, what I've got here, 24-10, and I watched most of that game. And even the week's game prior at BYU, they just looked a little bit off offensively. You could just tell that offense was not gelling. It hadn't really come together like Tetris yet. So after being down 24-10 and struggling, Charlie Brewer was benched in favor of the backup quarterback Cam Rising. And he actually had a very good showing. Brought them all the way back, tied it late, but ultimately they lost 33-31 in triple overtime. Now the fallout from that benching, since that game, Charlie Brewer has now officially left the program. He hasn't really said exactly where he's going, but because he is a grad transfer, he will have 1 year of eligibility left next year. So he gone, as the Hawk would say. So we'll see where Charlie Brewer ends up next season. I'm sure he will be picked up by somebody with his experience, his potential, but just wasn't really working out there at Utah. So best of luck to Charlie Brewer and quarterback Cam Rising moving forward. I'm still rooting for this team. I mean, winning the Pac-12 South is still right in front of them. They can do it, but they're going to have to look a little bit better on offense, and maybe this was the better option. We'll have to wait and see. So, yep, could be potentially awful news out of Utah, but could really be good news. We'll see how it plays out. And that's something that we're seeing more and more of. I mean, Charlie Brewer, absolutely success, big name, has what it takes. And in the age that Coach Rick Neuheisel says, if I ain't starting, I'm departing, the transfer portal is making that so much easier these days. So we'll see. Next storyline and headline for you. I've got to talk a little bit, and I'll talk a little bit more on this game later this episode, so stay tuned, is 2 very unlikely undefeateds meet in a conference game in the Big Ten this Saturday. Number 19, Michigan hosts 3-0 Rutgers. Both teams undefeated. Michigan entered the season unranked, very low to no expectations, while Rutgers finds themselves undefeated. What an amazing job Coach Greg Schiano has done there. Unofficially in his first year, he was last year at the helm, his second stint at Rutgers, first season with the COVID year. We don't really know what that meant. So in his first full season back, they find themselves undefeated. Hopefully long gone are the days of being beat down 61-0, 81-71, like they were not all that long ago within the Big Ten playing conference foes. But what a great job. What a great turnaround so far in the progress there at Rutgers. But what I wanted to mention about this game, oh boy, big time lack of judgment, some immaturity on part of the Scarlet Knights. On the eve of maybe the biggest game at Rutgers for quite a while, they'll be down the task of going to the Big House, playing Michigan, knocking them off, or at least giving them a game, is going to be a little bit more difficult now. They'll be down 2 starting cornerbacks. 2 of their cornerbacks were arrested earlier this week with possession of a weapon and assault charges. Wasn't a handgun per se, but was a paintball gun, which absolutely can also cause damage and some pain if they were using it on others. I don't know. All of the details haven't come out yet. I don't know, what this stemmed from, but were caught in possession of a paintball gun, and they have since now been suspended for the game. Might be looking at a longer-term suspension by Greg Schiano in the program, but it's going to be that much more difficult. So I've made my mistakes in my life. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, hide it. We all have. I believe in second chances. But the bonehead mistake of doing this right now, it's going to be so much more difficult, as I stated, to go to the big house and win, when one of these guys is a legitimate loss. Let's see, what's his name? Make sure I get this right. Max Melton. Max Melton has been one of their difference makers on defense the entire season. He has 2 interceptions, a blocked punt, a forced fumble, and fumble recovery. So absolutely, this cat can ball, but not going to be a part of the game on Saturday against Michigan. So we'll see. I mean, this is a potential huge win over maybe the bluest blue blood in our league, the Big Ten, next to Ohio State. But I really look forward to this game. This is a game I'm going to make every effort to watch, because I want to see just how much Rutgers has improved. I'm not saying they're going to win. It's a tall order, but definitely must-see TV. So the last storyline headline I have for you today is our Spotlight Game of the Week. And later on in this episode, I'll give you the picks for this game. Number 18, Wisconsin meets number 12, Notre Dame at Soldier Field in Chicago. And there is some high drama with this game between Jack Cohn, who is the starting quarterback in Notre Dame. If you recall, and if you are unaware, I'll bring you up to speed. Jack Cohn was the former starting quarterback at Wisconsin, broke his foot last year early in the season, lost his job to Graham Mertz, who now is the starting quarterback this season and was for all year last year. I believe Cohen broke his foot during fall practice. So broke his foot, opted out, transferred to Notre Dame. So he'll be playing against a lot of his former friends, teammates. This week, he has said publicly it's going to feel weird to play Wisconsin, and we absolutely can sympathize with that. It would be a little bit strange. I don't know who this really gives the advantage to in this matchup. I mean, he does know how Wisconsin schemes defensively, but he hasn't played in basically 2 years with them. So has their DC... has their defense switched it up a little bit? I'm sure they have. This is going to be an off-the-chart kind of game. A drag-em-out, fist fight, rock fight in the trenches. And Jack Cohn has kind of been labeled as more of a game manager. To me, that's not really an insult like some people take it as. Because like Jimmy Johnson said, the former head coach at Dallas and Miami, hey, if you're a game manager, that's fine if you're going to manage to win games. What's more important than that? And he's absolutely right. But he's going to have to be forced into the position to having to throw the ball vertically to beat Wisconsin. That's what I forecast. And he has had that label of not always being able to make the throws. And I saw that myself watching him at Wisconsin. He would put up pretty good numbers, but a lot of that I think would stem from play action from the always present threat of Wisconsin's run game. But there were just some throws that he would inexcusably miss and not make that were kind of layups. But Wisconsin is absolutely going to make him have to throw to win. Very stingy, salty defense there in Madison. They're only giving up 33 yards a game on the ground. That is impressive, but they've only played 2 games. Penn State, absolutely, that could have more or less been because they're playing a legitimate defense. And then they played, I believe, Eastern Michigan, the Eagles. So 33 yards on the ground through 2 games, that's getting it done. So we'll see if Jack Cohn for Notre Dame can make the play, the pass, to beat his former team. So, but I'm definitely going to talk more about this game because that is our Spotlight Pick'em game of the week. And Jack Coan was 12-6 as a starter at Wisconsin, so not bad. Impressive numbers, but high drama in this game. Definitely must-see TV as well. So that does it for our storylines and headlines segment this episode for the Week 4 preview. Now I'm going to go ahead and give you my updated pre-Week 4 conference, the Power 5 conference power rankings. And a little bit of movement and change from last week when I do this every week during the preview shows for the upcoming week. And last week I had a little bit of fun with this. And that's what I really try to do on this program. This show is not necessarily made for the fanatical fan who lives, breathes, sleeps, dies their college football team. That's fine. You can watch. Absolutely. I'll present good information for you. It'll be informative but fun. But I really want this also to cater to the more casual fan, or the fan who just wants to get some talking points for water cooler talk at the office on Monday, or with friends via the internet or on their phone, or hanging out doing this or that. So I'm going to have some fun this week. Last week, I presented the conference power rankings around a Bruce Springsteen theme, because I'm a huge fan of the Boss, hands down my favorite artist. So I presented that around Bruce Springsteen songs. So this week, even though he's not one of my favorite actors, but a lot of my more favorite movies he happens to star in, so I think unofficially he would be one of my favorite actors. And that's Tom Hanks. So this week's conference power rankings revolve around Tom Hanks movies. So let's go ahead and get started. Not much movement at the top. Now, potentially maybe the gap behind this conference has tightened up just a little bit. But after last week and this week, I still have the top conference is the SEC. So for them, it's catch me if you can. Out front, setting the pace. Because right now, they are 1 and 2 in both the AP poll and my team power rankings that I unveiled earlier this week during the Week 3 review show. Feel free to check those out. I do that every review show, or my team power rankings after that week's games and contests. Because Alabama and Georgia are both 1 and 2 in both the AP and my team power rankings, so they have to be out front leading. Plus A&M, Texas A&M is still in the top 10 as well. They're sitting at number 7. But the gap is definitely closing. I think they are starting to hear the footsteps of the team of the conference that comes in at number 2. And this gap is especially going to close even more to where if Texas A&M loses this week, and that's going to be one of our pick'em games, they meet up on a neutral site against Arkansas, a ranked Arkansas Pig Sooie team. If they were to lose that game, yes, it's a quality loss, if there is such a thing, to a ranked opponent. But then you're going to lose a top 10 team from the SEC. And if the second conference on this list takes care of business, the SEC is not only going to hear their footsteps, but I think they're going to feel their breath as well. So the conference, in the second spot for this week's conference power rankings is the Big Ten. The Big Ten moved up a spot from last week's power rankings. They were number 3 last week. Now they find themselves up at number 2, so they've made a splash. One of my favorite Tom Hanks movies, early career Tom Hanks classic, just along with other classics like Bachelor Party, The Burbs, The Money Pit. Got to check out those Tom Hanks movies at some point. Kind of the unknowns or under the radar. Boom, boom, Tom Hanks movies. So the Big Ten, why they've moved into the second spot. They've created nationally through Week 3, they've really created a lot of buzz. And even though Ohio State is down, and when I say Ohio State is down, yes, we know their defense is suspect. Giving up 500 yards to Tulsa, what the hell are you doing? But they still are a top 10 team. But other teams from the Big Ten have kind of proven that they can carry the banner and keep the conference relevant into the victories that they are recording. I mean, right now, our Iowa Hawkeyes, our black and gold of Iowa, is number 5 in the AP poll. And also right there in the top 10 is the Penn State Nittany Lions. So the Big Ten is still taking care of business. And they have 3 teams now in the AP top 10 and in the top 10 in my team power rankings. So the Big Ten is still creating a lot of buzz, even though the Ohio State, the bluest blood in the conference, is a little bit down. So the Big Ten has taken over the second spot, closing the gap on the SEC. So the third conference in this week's power rankings, down a spot, is the Pac-12. And boy, oh boy, it was a week to remember, week 3 for the Pac-12, especially the Pac-12 South. I shared this during the week 3 review show. The Pac-12 South was 0-5 in their Division I matchups. They did have one conference game. Washington State played USC. USC took care of business up in Pullman, Washington. But Ofer. And just to remind you what that winning percentage would be, let's ask Dean Wormer. What was that winning percentage, Dean? 0.0. So a little fall from grace. I mean, even though Oregon is right now currently number 3 in both the AP poll and my team power rankings, that's keeping them afloat. And this is one thing I'm going to say. This kind of summarizes the Pac-12. And I forecasted this would be very highly contested. And I did say I believed that every team in the Pac-12 could potentially have at least 2 losses. Oregon has kind of disproven that, but there's still lots of football to play. And also what happened, UCLA, who's number 13, they got handled at home by Fresno State and Jake Haener. If you don't know that name, the Fresno State quarterback, get to know him. They're the ones really holding the water right now for the Pac-12. So Oregon, keeping them relevant, but definitely down a spot. Oregon, this summarizes the status of the Pac-12, that they are the only team in that conference that is undefeated. That right there sums it up. Let's see. What else did I say about the Pac-12? So the fourth conference on this list is definitely closing the gap on the Pac-12 at number 3. They are approaching them in the rearview mirror, but objects may appear closer than they appear. One of my favorite scenes from Jurassic Park with the T-Rex chasing Malcolm in the Jeep. Iconic scene, iconic movie from that picture. And also, too, in the Pac-12, 6 teams have at least 2 losses. So half of the conference has at least 2 losses, when I believe Arizona is 0-3 after their very embarrassing loss to FCS Northern Arizona during week 3. So Pac-12 just hanging on, and tune in next week. We'll see if they hold the 3 spot, move up or move down. As former coach Mark Richt very eloquently put during one of his press conferences, that, hey, if we win, we'll move up the polls, and if we lose, well, we'll move down. Absolutely. Well said there, Coach. So the fourth conference this week, no movement. They occupied the 4th spot last week, is the Big 12. And for them, it's Big is the movie that represents their conference, because the Big 12, you dream big, you wish for the opportunity to play with the big kids for big prizes, but is there enough magic in the Zoltar machine? And also, Forrest Gump for the Pac-12, that was my movie. I'm sorry, I almost forgot to mention that. For the Pac-12, in the 3 spot was Forrest Gump, because after all, the Pac-12 is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And maybe for me being so high on them, it's stupid is as stupid does on me. I did mention the Big Ten is splash because that's what they've made through week 3. But the Big 12 in the 4th spot for the conference power rankings is big. We'll see if Zoltar can grant their wish to play for those big prizes. Number 4, Oklahoma continues leaving us scratching our heads a little bit. I mean, only won by a touchdown last week at home as a 23-point favorite over awful Nebraska. Maybe, a very good showing by the Cornhuskers. Maybe they just were very inspired. The 50th anniversary of the game of the century between number 1 and number 2, Oklahoma and Nebraska, but obviously a much different, better time for the status of Nebraska football. But so they continue to leave us scratching our heads with what's going on with their offense. I mean, Spencer Rattler, the Heisman Trophy finalist, what is going on? Texas is definitely not back. I mean, sorry to tell you that. Horns fans, you are not back yet. You looked very impressive week 1 against the Ragin' Cajuns of Louisiana, a team I was very high on. But since then, have definitely come back to earth. You have more improving to do. And number 14, Iowa State, looks like the potential beluga caviar, but they may end up being a simple milkshake. Great scene there from the movie Big. So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, maybe Iowa State can get back into the race. And they're going to be involved in one of my off-the-radar games, which I'll mention here shortly, later in this episode. But, yeah, I mean, who gets to be on top? When it comes down to the Big 12, I mean, who's on top? Having the sleepover. Who's on the top bunk? Which that message maybe was not delivered clearly to the, the lead role actress in that movie. And right now, the team behind them, or not the team, the conference, bringing up the rear, the 5th spot, they're no longer in sight of the Big 12. I mean, the conference in the 5th spot has basically been lapped by the entire field, so no longer a factor, no longer in sight. And finally, the last conference in the 5th spot is the ACC. In your movie, Tom Hanks movie that represents you, Castaway. Enough said right there. ACC, you've claimed your deserted, desolate island through your own actions and your play on the field. Now own it. I'm predicting post week 4, you'll have 0. That's once again 0.0. Teams who are undefeated still standing in the ACC. Coming into this week, we only have 2. Boston College, who host Missouri, M-I-Z-Z-O-U, and Wake Forest, who travels to a very game Virginia squad. I believe that game is on a Friday night, and against a stud quarterback in Brennan Armstrong, who put up 500 yards passing week 3 at North Carolina. So I believe potentially both of those teams could lose. No, those might be in our pick'em segment here shortly. Stay tuned once again to see. But if that does come to fruition, you have 0 teams who are undefeated. I mean, your bell cow, Clemson, they are number 9 in this week's AP poll. Lost the opening game against a very legitimate elite defense in Georgia. But I've mentioned what Clemson's issues are. I mean, my week 3 review summarized it. And the 2 Power 5 opponents you've played, and yes, one was Georgia, who occupies the number 2 spot in both the AP and my team power rankings. Legitimate defense, but you only scored 3 points, a field goal. And then week 3 against Georgia Tech, you hosted Georgia Tech, 14 points. So you've only scored 17 points against Division I opponents. Awful, bad, especially how you recruit 4 and 5 stars galore, a plethora. I'd say, Jefe, you have a plethora of 4 and 5 star recruits. So for them, I'm predicting right now that ACC, you've got no shot at making the playoff. Your dreams, your bubble has been burst. even if Clemson were to run the table and win out, maybe they look good doing it. They have no business being in. The ACC has no business having a representative in the playoff. And I'm happy with that because, hey, guess who predicted that during his predictions episode? This guy right here. I predicted that Clemson would not be in this year's playoff. And just to further tell you maybe why you should listen to me occasionally, I also predicted that Ohio State would not be in. And right now they find themselves on the outside looking in with their loss to Oregon, excuse me. So right now my playoff predictions are still looking pretty good, even though Iowa State did lose to my Hawkeyes, which I'm happy with that. But I picked Iowa State as a dark horse to make the playoffs, which maybe potentially they still can. If they run the table, beat Oklahoma twice, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, as of now, ACC, you are completely out. I mean, here it is. The choir's been warming up. They've been practicing. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Or a little Ave Maria. Oh, and there we go. Angels just got their wings every time I sing. ACC, you're out of the playoff race. And for the conference and the fans of the ACC, have no fear. Basketball season will be here very shortly. So there you have it. My post-week 3, pre-week 4 conference power rankings. Check back next week during the week 5 preview, and I'll give you my updated conference power rankings. Next topic I want to go into, and thank you once again. Please, I want to keep all of you, the family, the friends involved of the Black and Gold vlog. Comment. Let me know what's going on. If you have any questions, any topics of discussion, comment. Leave those there. Nothing is out of bounds here. This is a judgment-free zone for fans, all of you to express yourselves. If you agree or disagree with me, let me know. If you want to call me a dirty SOB, fine, but maybe don't write that specifically because we are keeping this adult-like. That's fine. Feel free still. Continue. I ask you again, everyone, like, share, subscribe. Let's keep this going. So our next topic today, let me get a quick swig. Cheers, bottoms up. I got my red Solo cups ready for this weekend's action. Huge slate of games. I'm so excited. I'm going to give you a little taste of the games that you need to be made aware of. That's some good agua. Or is it agua? I guess we'll never know. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you the list of my off-the-radar games for week 4. Boom, boom, radar love. There we go, a little golden earring. My potential, what games, Admiral Akbar? It's a trap. The trap games for week 4. And I'm also going to give you potentially what I see could happen. Maybe the FCS, the lower Division 1 teams can maybe score a 10th victory against Division 1 opponents. I'll give you what I believe is the best shot for the FCS to pull that off again coming up here in week 4. So let's start with my off-the-radar games. Toledo at Ball State. The Rockets, who almost shattered the dreams of Notre Dame and their fans 2 weeks ago. Then they took a loss at Colorado State, who Iowa hosts this week. And I really still have a tough read on both Colorado State and Toledo. Colorado State lost at home to Vanderbilt. Okay, that's enough said. But Toledo goes out there. Maybe he's sleeping on that team. Maybe has a hangover game, a letdown game after being so close against the Fighting Irish. But Toledo travels to Ball State, the Cardinals. Or they might be the Redbirds. I'll have to look into that. Let me know. Are they the Cardinals or the Redbirds? But the winner of this game potentially goes the spoils, winning the MAC, the Mid-American Conference's West Division. Both of these teams were forecasted by several experts, pundits, myself, to finish at the top of that division. So this is a huge game for the MAC West and the MAC in general. Good football played in the MAC. Wake at Virginia, I already mentioned. Expect a lot of offense in this game. Defense is going to be optional. And undefeated Wake Forest, one of the unusual suspects, going to Virginia. Hopefully they can slow down, at least try to contain Virginia's quarterback Brennan Armstrong, mentioned coming off a 500-yard performance against North Carolina in Week 3. His stats are off the chain. Definitely check that out and him out, getting a little bit of NFL love from scouts and forecasters, draft experts. So we'll see. That's going to be a tough task, I believe, for Wake, but we'll see what they can do. Next off-the-radar game, Iowa State. Number 14 Iowa State travels to Baylor. Just share with you earlier this episode, Baylor, one of the unusual suspects. They're 3-0, but are they for real? And Iowa State should win this game, but it is a road contest, the Big 12 opener for both of these squads. We'll see if Iowa State is an actual contender, if they go there, take care of business, or maybe Baylor gives them all they can and maybe they come out on top. This will definitely show us who the Baylor Bears are and also who the Iowa State Cyclones are. Next off the radar game is Kansas at Duke. And you're probably thinking, why the hell are you wasting our time with this game? Because the intrigue here. These are two of the Power 5 conference cellar dwellers. I mean, the only three that are missing would be Vanderbilt from the SEC, probably Illinois, maybe Nebraska from the Big 10, since Maryland and Rutgers definitely look better in Indiana the last couple of years. And then from the Pac-12, recently, probably either Oregon State, maybe Washington State, take your pick there. But I've got to give some love to these two teams because they may not get any additional love the rest of the year unless I'm talking about them taking ass kickings from their opponents. So I'm going to go in. This is the toilet bowl game, the cellar dweller game. So bragging rights could be on the line between these two teams and conferences to, hey, you have the worst cellar dweller than we do. So Kansas at Duke, we'll see how this game plays out. And my last off-the-radar game, already brought it up during our storylines and headlines segment earlier this episode, is Rutgers at number 19 Virginia. Two surprisingly 3-0 teams. And can Rutgers slow down the Michigan rushing attack? I mean, Michigan is averaging 360 yards rushing per game, only 164 through the air. So we know what Michigan's going to do. They have kind of established what their identity is going to be under this year with Coach Jim Harbaugh being on the hot seat. And I still am really scared. This Michigan team still is sneaky scary. Even though they're ranked, they still have yet to play, the Penn States of the world, Ohio State, which will be later in the season, obviously, like it usually is after Thanksgiving. Michigan State is surprisingly undefeated and ranked. They're looking much better. So is Indiana. So is Maryland, who's undefeated, another one of the unusual suspects. So they really haven't played the meat of their schedule yet. But this is definitely an appetizer. Remember, this is week 4. I already coined it as the appetizer. We're going to find out how good Michigan is and just how far Rutgers has come. So, and I cannot wait to watch this game at the Big House. I'd hate to see either one of these teams lose, but because of I've always have to root for the underdog, and obviously Rutgers still is. They are the ultimate underdog in the Big Ten, but they are making strides. I just want to see how much those strides are. Are they baby steps? Are they legitimate? Are they Usain Bolt steps? We'll have to wait and see. Did my best little impersonation there. And the other thing I wanted to mention about this game, this is a side note, and something that I've been wanting to talk about during this season, haven't done yet, is I live in SEC country. I'm a resident of Missouri, the Show Me State, so not right smack dab in the middle of SEC country. I was brought up an Iowa fan, born and raised Northwest Illinois. But I have to bring this up about Tennessee and their fan base. And we all know the debacle that's going on in Tennessee, what's transpired, the embarrassment, going back to pre-hire of Jeremy Pruitt. He was let go during the offseason, but apparently was, putting money in McDonald's bags for recruits. And, hey, why don't you go ahead and buy your mother lunch and buy her a new car, a new house while you're at it too. Dismissed. But to rewind a little bit, here's my rewind button. Rewind. That when Butch Jones, the coach previous to when Jeremy Pruitt was hired, an ongoing coaching search was going on at Tennessee. And yes, the Tennessee fans, fanatical, they love their football. They expect to always be right there in the thick of things in the SEC, but especially in the SEC East. And I get that. I totally respect any fan base because as fans, we always want more, but sometimes you need to keep things real. I keep it real, like Miss Cleo used to say. And I'm going to keep it real right now. Jeff Brom was a potential hire, couldn't get him away from Purdue. Then he played his fiddle, got himself a nice raise to retain him. Also, Louisville was after Jeff Brom at the time. But then it got leaked that Tennessee, the upper echelon, the coaching committee, the search was going to potentially offer Greg Schiano the coaching position. And he is now the Rutgers coach. And when this got out, the Tennessee fan base went absolutely berserk, had a little coup, they had a little mutiny, up in arms. This is not acceptable. We want a bigger name. This man is not worthy of Tennessee football, not where we want to be, not where we're going to go. How dare you? And eventually that hire collapsed, and it ultimately led to the firing of the AD at the time at Tennessee, who was going to hire Greg Schiano. And then former coach Philip Fulmer, the legend, stepped into at the time was a temporary AD role, hired Jeremy Pruitt from Alabama, one of the Nick Saban disciples, and that was his guy. Stuck by him, but when this broke about these issues with recruits, letting Jeremy Pruitt go, Philip Fulmer just at that time was a good time to retire and just ride off into the sunset, get a nice check. But I think that firing, was also more about lack of progress on the field. I think Tennessee fans were not happy. They weren't winning, so that was just a good opportunity to dismiss him. Go, we have our chance, go. We're not buying into you. You're not getting it done. And like I think I said this in my first episode when I did this with Charlie, my former co-host, who hopefully will be back in the near future, Mr. Missouri Tiger himself. I could do a whole episode just on the Tennessee situation. So you shun Greg Schiano and you get Josh Heupel, who had some success at UCF. Former OC at Missouri. I love the connection there. And I do want good things for him. But Tennessee, looking at their schedule moving forward, they lost 2 weeks ago at home to a pretty good Pitt team. But then that same Pitt team loses at home to MAC school Western Michigan, 44-41. Looking at Tennessee's schedule, I don't see 6 wins. I don't see them getting to bowl eligibility, which isn't a big surprise. This is a brand new administration there. When he came, several players hit the transfer portal, left Tennessee. But is that going to sit well? Because I'm already hearing the rumors about same old Tennessee, we're not happy, this isn't working, he's already on the hot seat. Give him time. You are suffocating this program. And look at what Greg Schiano has done at Rutgers. Totally to turn them around. They're 3-0. They're relevant. They have a big game this weekend at Michigan that I've mentioned. And there is no culture problems with him. Maybe he has a little bit of baggage. But you shunned him, and look what he's done. Look at yourselves in the mirror before you, Tennessee fans, before you blame everybody else for our lack of success or we're not happy, we're not getting it done. It starts with each and every one of you who turned him away. He was a slam dunk hire. Issues are prevalent there, just like what I believe is going on at Florida State. At Tennessee, there is a culture issue. That has to be addressed first. Jeremy Pruitt did not do that. Hopefully Josh Heupel can, but give this man some time. So Tennessee fans, you could have had Greg Schiano. Now he's with Rutgers in the Big Ten. Deal with it. Take your medicine for a couple of years. Don't do this again. And next time, if a coaching position comes open there, let those who are most knowledgeable do their job. Let your AD, let your president make that decision, not you, the fan base. Boom, mic drop, I'm done. So back to some of the games I want to bring to your attention. And Tennessee fans, once again, I'm not trying to disrespect. I'm not trying to piss you off. I'm just keeping it real. And feel free, I'd love to hear from some Tennessee fans on that. I would love it. I invite it. Let me know. And I'd love to share that with all of you on the Black and Gold family during the vlog. So let's go to some potential trap. It's a trap. Some trap games for week 4, the Appetizer week coming up. Kent State at Maryland. And this is kind of ironic that Iowa played Kent State during week 3, took care of business. And next week, on a Friday night, a short week, Iowa travels to Maryland. So it's nice to see how these two teams, how they fare against a common opponent. But Maryland definitely looking at a potential trap playing Kent State. This Kent State team, speed and space, play fast, fast, fast. I mean, offenses all over the field. Because next week, Maryland does host number 5 Iowa. So trap game for the Terps if they're looking ahead. Another one, in the Mountain West, Boise State travels to undefeated Utah State, the Aggies. Another one of my unusual suspects. Quick drink. Next week, maybe Utah State might be looking ahead because next week they host undefeated number 15 BYU comes to town too. I believe they're in Logan, Utah, I believe. So maybe they're looking ahead to that huge non-conference matchup with a highly ranked team in BYU. So be on the lookout, Utah State. Another one, a team that I really like, that I'm high on, Kentucky travels to South Carolina. And Kentucky's undefeated. Big week 2 win against Missouri. Tough loss for Mizzou, but they looked very good. Not a big surprise to me. I picked Missouri to lose that game. Charlie, he does submit his picks every week, and I have them here as well. He liked Mizzou. Turned out the people's champ got it right. But they travel to South Carolina, and next week, Utah hosts, or not Utah, excuse me, looking at the Utah State, Kentucky. Kentucky hosts number 11 Florida next week. And right now, Kentucky's kind of in the proverbial driver's seat to maybe finish second in the SEC East behind Georgia because they already have the head-to-head win against Missouri and they host Florida. But Florida definitely looks better than what I thought they were going to be. I mean, leading the nation in rushing yards per game, looking very, very legit. So that's a huge game for Kentucky and Florida and for the entire SEC East division. So maybe Kentucky's looking ahead to next week's matchup. Be ready for South Carolina. We'll have to wait and see if they escape Columbia. Not Columbia, Missouri, the other Columbia. Columbia, South Carolina with a victory. And my last potential trap game is Washington State travels to Utah. Now Utah, I think they can right the ship, win the Pac-12 South, They do have the backup quarterback now taking over first team. But this is a huge game for them because in 2 weeks, they travel to LA. They travel to the Coliseum to take on USC, and that game could ultimately decide who wins the Pac-12 South. So maybe Utah's looking ahead. They do have an off week during week 5, but maybe they're already looking ahead and planning on the USC game in a couple weeks. So be ready, Utah. Don't look past the Cougars of Washington State. Last game I want to bring to your attention before the Pick'em segment, which comes up here shortly, is the FCS First Division I game of the week. There's two that I potentially could have mentioned, but I think this one definitely has more of a potential to get it done. Is number 22 in the FCS poll this week is the New Hampshire Wildcats from the Colonial Conference, play good football. They travel to Pitt from the ACC. Pittsburgh, the Jekyll and Hyde, win at Tennessee, like I mentioned, but then lose at home to Western Michigan. And they're from the ACC, who are the Castaway, Tom Hanks movie, out of the playoff picture by my seeing, my vision. So maybe New Hampshire can go to Pitt and pull out the victory. Who knows? So that is the off-the-radar Trap and FCS First Division I opponent games of upcoming Week 4, the Appetizer week. So the next thing that I'd like to talk about, next topic, before Pick'em, is what I need to see and how I forecast our beloved Black and Gold's games going this weekend of Missouri and Iowa. First of all, let's start with our Missouri Tigers. The offense. The offense must continue to perform at a high level. They travel to Boston College, who's undefeated. This is going to be a tough game. This is going to be a physical type of game. Jeff Hafley, who's the coach at BC, doing an excellent job his second year, so unofficially his first with the COVID year. Former coach, staff coach at Ohio State, so brings that physical mentality to Chestnut Hill and Boston College. So Missouri is going to have to still execute at a high level offensively to go in there and win. And I don't think it's going to be as difficult because during week 2, Boston College, their starting quarterback, Phil Jurkovic, a guy I was very high on, NFL guys love already, is out for the season with wrist and hand injuries. But Missouri, so far this season, is looking very good offensively. And I did expect that they would look this good, but maybe not this good. And I shared with you during the Week 3 review that when you look at the SEC schools, 1 through 14, offensively, Alabama currently is 10th in the SEC in overall offense. Missouri, very surprisingly, is number 3. So playing very good on that side of the ball through 3 weeks, through 3 games. They definitely are going to need that. I mean, still, Connor Bazelak needs to continue to distribute the ball to his playmakers, involve Tyler Beatty, who still absolutely is their best offensive weapon, rushing and out of the backfield, receiving the ball, making things happen. Boston College is going to try and win the point of attack. They're going to try to dominate in the trenches, both on the O-line and D-line, and that has been Missouri's Achilles heel. I forecasted that. I informed you of that early in this season during the vlog, and Kentucky absolutely exposed that. So I believe BC is going to try to be very run-heavy and control the line of scrimmage. So hopefully Mizzou can show us what they've, the growth they made during last week's, when they hosted FCS opponent SEMO. So that's where it's really going to be won and lost again this week, is how the O and D lines of Missouri hold up at the point of attack. Do they get stood up? Do they get moved? Or can they hold the point of attack? Let's see. And I think this could really potentially be a UGLY ugly game. Not necessarily from a execution perspective, but on the scoreboard. 20-17, 13-10. It could be because how Boston College is going to want to play this game. Let's see. Other than that, if the defense of Missouri stays together, they will more than likely get the victory. And if their offense keeps doing what they do, I expect them to leave Chestnut Hill with a victory. I'm not calling it. Next segment, I'll give you my official pick on this game. But the D-line, if they can hold up and make some stops, occasionally get the Boston College offense off the game, they'll win the game. So good luck. Get the victory. Mizou. Go Tigers. Next, for the black and gold of our Iowa Hawkeyes. Both sides of the ball must still take advantage of another golden opportunity via the scheduling gods to improve. Now, Iowa had 2 daunting games to open up the season, at home against Indiana, and then at their in-state rival, a top 10 Iowa State team with game day being there. Won both, started 2-0, and then they had 2 weeks of kind of get-right games. Kent State last week, and this week, Colorado State. And I think this is a weaker of those 2 opponents. They need to continue to still get right, especially offensively. Iowa's quarterback, Spencer Petras, must continue to take care of the ball. I mean, he's doing that well. He's thrown 0 picks, 0 fumbles through 3 games, continue to do that. But he needs to still keep his completion percentage at least at 65% or better. Prior to last week's game, it was right at 50, like 49.7. Did complete basically 60% of his pass. I think it was 69%, almost 70% last week against Kent State. Needs to emulate that again this week against the Rams. You still need to get your wide receivers involved. I mean, it's still a lot of a dip and dunk down to your tight ends. I mean, they're talented tight ends in Sam Laporta and Ucla, but you've got to attack the field vertically. And right now, they're only averaging 5.8 yards per completion. That is not sustainable to continue success. And they need to do that if they want to potentially play for big prizes at the end of the season. The offensive line continued to gel in your pickup packages. Overall, it's kind of a mix and match, a veteran group, but kind of a young group as well. Need to continue to come together, open those lanes, protect Spencer Petras, your QB, and just open the lines and win the point of attack on the O-line. Because as the O-line goes at Iowa, so goes their team. Defense, I absolutely expect the streak to reach 26 games of 24 points or less by opponents. I think Colorado State isn't good. So I definitely expect the streak to continue, which is excellent. Tyler Goodson, I think, can have himself a good day running the ball, but I think late in the second half, you've got to get him some rest, protect him. The special teams, Tory Taylor, the punter from down under, the native of Melbourne. Man, he is just absolutely the second coming of Reggie Airtime Roby. Iowa fans know who he is. Also, a lot of UNFL folks would. Had a great career as a punter in the NFL. To me, Tory Taylor is like a punting deity. And I've said this several times, and I'll continue to say it. Punting is the first play of defense. It is an extension of your defense. And if you've been watching this show or watching the games, you know that the Iowa defense is legitimate. One of the top 5 best defenses in the nation. And right now, so hopefully Tory Taylor can continue to maintain his average, maybe even increase it. But hopefully he won't have to punt a lot this week against Colorado State. Right now, averaging 50 yards a punt. And following a very poor call last week. I didn't talk about this during the Week 3 review, but Iowa did a fake punt last week. It was a pass play. Tory Taylor completed the pass. It was short of the first down. So 100% completion percentage for Tory Taylor as a quarterback. So how about Tory Taylor for Heisman? And I don't care what you think. You know, this is my opinion. You have the right to yours. But Tory Taylor, I'm going to say this right now. He has been the MVP of the Iowa team. The defense has been the most valuable position unit, but Tory Taylor is their MVP through 3 weeks for what he's doing for field position, setting up that Iowa defense. So keep that up. Let's see. So do what needs to be done. Defense, continue to be salty, execute, do what you do, hold them below 24 points or less. Offense, I already said what you need to do. Get it done. Victory should be yours. IOU. W-A, go Hawks. All right. So now let's move into everybody's favorite segment. Our next topic is Week 4 Pick'em. And if you recall, last week we did welcome a guest picker, my friend Brett, who went 11-4, set the bar pretty high for guest pickers. That was really good, to the clip of 73%, but not good enough. This guy and Charlie went 12-3. Sorry, house rules, to a tie goes to the house. So the people's champ on top for 2 straight weeks. Charlie got me week 1. Week 2, week 3 have belonged to this guy. So this week, we bring back another guest picker. I am honored and thrilled to welcome my brother, Anthony. He is our guest picker this week. I got the information from him right here. So this week's pick, like Thunderdome, 3 men enter, 1 man leaves Thunderdome. Usually it was 2 men enter, but in this case, 3 men enter, 1 man leaves. So let's go ahead and get right to our pick segment. So our first game this week of Pick'em, number 9 Clemson travels to upset-minded NC State. I love this NC State team. I've been saying multiple times during this vlog this season, NC State is an absolute sleeper in the ACC conference, down, outright bad. This is their opportunity to knock off the bell cow. And let's see how Anthony has this game going. Anthony says, Clemson's offense has been inept to say the least. First real road test, which it absolutely is for them. Did play Georgia neutral site. Tigers officially out of the playoff picture as the Wolfpack win in a non-upset. Ouch! A little bit of salt in the wound there of Clemson and their fans. But yeah, Clemson is favored. But I agree with Anthony. This is not really an upset to me. He likes NC State. I like NC State as well. And we have our first disagreement of the week. My boy Charlie got his picks here. He likes Clemson on the road at Raleigh to take care of NC State. So we'll see how that one plays out. Next game up. A little bit, and you're going to see kind of a theme this week. I've really included a little bit more flavor of the non-Power 5 this week because they are playing very good football, and I want to give them some credit and some attention. Next game, the San Jose State Spartans travel to Western Michigan. San Jose State, mentioned them during this vlog, the reigning, defending Mountain West Conference champions. They have a playmaker, quarterback Nick Starkel, stud, good team. Travel cross-country to Western Michigan, who, remember, last week went to Pitt and knocked off the Panthers at home. So this is a really intriguing matchup. San Jose State is 2-1 on the season, but their loss was at USC. They were only down, I believe, 10 points late in the fourth quarter. So they played the Trojans to the wire. So let's see how Anthony has this game playing out. Anthony says, great matchup, tough task for the Spartans to follow up a road win at Hawaii, which is true. And that's 2 long road trips back-to-back for the Spartans. With a trip to Kalamazoo, but I like this team's grit and resolve, especially with the Western Michigan coach, Tim Lester. Tim Lester is out for this week's game with COVID-19, breakthrough case, was vaccinated, still caught the bug, so he'll miss the game. So with Tim Lester out with COVID, he likes San Jose State, and he says, this is Sparta. So Anthony's going with the Spartans. Me, I like the Broncos at home. Potential letdown game. I mean, they'll be celebrating their big win at Pitt, so I could see them coming out with a little bit of lack of intensity and focus. But I like the Broncos at home, and so does Charlie. So we have another disagreement among us 3. Good stuff. Next game on the docket, number 7, Texas A&M travels to Jerry World. They're in Dallas to take on number 16, Arkansas. What a game. And Texas A&M definitely had a little bit more of a pulse last week on offense. Looked completely inept at Colorado. Escaped Denver. with a 10-7 victory to maintain undefeated and in the top 10. And Arkansas, they are just running the ball at an amazing clip. I mean, rushed all over Texas 2 weeks ago, 7 yards a carry. Amazing stat. Sam Pittman's got them going in the right direction. Anthony sees this game like this. Sam Pittman's outstanding rebuilding job at Arkansas continues with a loud statement and barbaric pig suey as the Razorbacks win this game in the trenches. Hog heaven, Jimbo Fisher still gets paid. And I've said, this is a show me kind of year for Coach Jimbo Fisher of the Texas A&M Aggies, the $7.5 million man. Anthony likes the Razorbacks. I like the Razorbacks. So does Charlie. So we're all in agreement on this game. Go Hogs. Next game up, conference game in the Pac-12. Cal, 1-2 Cal, got off the mat last week against Sacramento State from the FCS ranks. Cal travels to Washington, who is 1-2 as well. Kind of a disappointing start for Washington. I picked the Huskies to win the Pac-12 North, which they still can, but it starts now with this game. Anthony sees this game. Washington, this is a tough game to predict as two underachieving teams battle in Seattle, and that crowd is always loud and rabid. Going with the Huskies at home to even up their record and open Pac-12 play with a UW. See what he did there? A UW victory. Go Washington. He likes Washington. So do I. So does Charlie. We're in agreement. Huskies win. Next game up, SEC Conference opening game for these two. LSU travels to Mississippi State. Mississippi State last week lost in what I pointed out was one of my trap games. They lost at Memphis. How do they bounce back at home against the Tigers, who had a bye week? Got absolutely physically dominated week 1 at UCLA. Anthony says, Bulldogs at home fired up after last week's loss at Memphis. Bounced back big with a double-digit win over the LSU. Go Tigers. Tigers go back to Baton Rouge in disarray. So Anthony likes the Bulldogs of Mississippi State. So does Charlie. I like Go Tigers. I think LSU comes back, gets it done. We have another disagreement. Go Tigers, but those two like the Bulldogs. Next game up, let me get a little swig here. We have number 25 K-State travels to Oklahoma State to take on the Cowboys in Stillwater at Boone Pickens Stadium. Tough place to play and win. Anthony says, where there's a will, there's a way. Like his namesake, Will Rogers from Mississippi State. Will Howard leads Kansas State. Because remember, their starting quarterback to start the year, Skylar Thompson, is out for this game. Might be out for an extended period. He likes, in his absence, K-State flying under the radar with a couple of solid wins over Stanford and Nevada, which those are solid wins. Anthony likes Kansas State on the road. Good pick. Good pick. But Charlie and I both like Oklahoma State. So another disagreement. I cannot wait to see how this turns out at the end of Saturday. I am so excited for this week's Pick'em. Next game on the docket, Big Ten Conference play game. Illinois, the Fighting Illini traveled to Purdue. And this game, Anthony says, Brett Bielema, these are tough words. And I'm going to actually mirror some of these, maybe not so enthusiastically or harshly, but he's right. Last week's game, Illinois, Maryland. If you didn't watch that game, hold on one second, I'll bring you up to speed. Anthony says, Brett Bielema is a coward. Simply awful last week for the Illini at home against Maryland. Not going for it on 4th and 1 with 5 minutes to go at the Maryland 40 is exactly what people expect from the Illinois Fighting Illini program. Ouch. That is true. If he goes for that, and Brett Bielema should know better. They were up 7 points at the time. Momentum, this was a back and forth game. It was 17-10 or, something like that. They had a touchdown lead late in the game, chance to put it away. That's your chance to win. They line up, they try to draw them off sides, take a timeout, punt. Then Maryland ends up driving the length of the field, score a touchdown to take the lead. They win 20-17. Brett Bielema knows better than that. Go for the win. Win it right there on that. He didn't. It cost Illinois the game potentially. So it was a very cowardly play. I still love the hire of Brett Bielema. I told you that. I've said it several times during the vlog this season. But that was absolutely the wrong call for Brett Bielema. I mean, you took victory out of the hands of your boys by making that decision. Just go for it. You got all the momentum. Make them score to win. If they score, quicker, then maybe at that point that gives you time to answer back. Didn't get it. So Anthony then says, playing not to lose instead of playing to win. Gutless call. Purdue adds to the indignation this week. He likes Purdue. And Charlie and I both like the Boilermakers too at home. Sorry, Illinois. I don't know if you're going to get to bowl eligibility now like I forecasted and predicted. I definitely think you'll get to 4 wins and beat the Vegas bet on you, though, which was under 3.5 wins. So, Illini, some week, but this is not your week. Next game on the docket, we have a big game. Some more Power 5 love. SMU, after the Hail Mary last week, upsetting Louisiana Tech. They travel, and they're undefeated SMU as well. They travel undefeated TCU. TCU, under the radar team in the Big 12. I like them. I'm high on them. Let's see what Anthony thinks. Anthony says, no miracle Hail Mary for the Mustangs this week. Which, that's unlikely, but how great would that be? Another dangerous Big 12 team flying under the radar, just like Kansas State. TCU gets a solid win at home as the Horned Frogs take back the Iron Skillet. They're playing for trophy game this week, the Iron Skillet. He likes TCU. Charlie also likes TCU. I'm going with the Mustangs. I love this team. One of my Power 5 favorites. Go Stangs. Another disagreement. How great is this? Next game on the docket, number 24 UCLA, kind of hopefully a bounce-back game for them after losing at home last week to Fresno State. Number 24, UCLA travels to Stanford, Pac-12 conference game. Anthony's got this game. Another bounce-back game as the Bruins get right on the road by beating a Stanford team that is probably feeling a little good about themselves after a couple wins. I mean, which they should. History repeats itself as UCLA follows up a tough game against Fresno State with a big road win just like Oregon did at the Horseshoe a few weeks back. So he likes UCLA. I like UCLA. So does Charlie. We're in agreement there. Bruins get it done. Now we go into our spotlight games of the week. And we always have 5 of these. Actually, 6 of these every week. We always spotlight our black and golds, Missouri and Iowa. We'll pick every one of their games. We always have a non-Power 5 conference spotlight game where give some love to the non-Power 5 opponents. We always have a Academy Spotlight game, where we always pick a game that involves Army, Air Force, or Navy. We always have an FCS Spotlight game of the week to where there's a good matchup between FCS opponents. And then we have our Spotlight game of the week. So let's start with the black and golds with Missouri first. So Missouri at BC. Anthony says, BC steps way up in competition this week with a real opponent coming in to Chestnut Hill, and I fully expect a game the Eagles like. Ugly. Like I said, this is going to be an ugly game, and that's kind of what they want. They want to engage Missouri in a rock fight kind of game. Field position, run-focused, defensive-minded game plan leads to an ACC over SEC win over Missouri. Loses the turnover battle and the game late. Wow. Anthony likes BC at home. I like Missouri. So does Charlie. Another disagreement. So we'll see how that black and gold game plays out. Next, we've got the black and gold of our Iowa Hawkeyes. Colorado State at number 5, Iowa. Anthony said Iowa is good. Colorado State, not so good. End of analysis. Wait, you want more? Okay. Well, Iowa refocused after allowing Kent State to hang around for almost 3 quarters, which they did. Meets a Rams team feeling really good about itself after taking apart a demoralized and flat Toledo team. Still reeling from the Notre Dame loss. I mentioned that. I shared that with you folks as well. It's a recipe for disaster for the Rams. Iowa big, really big. I agree. I got Iowa. So does Charlie. Iowa wins. Next game is our Academy Spotlight game of the week. It's Miami of Ohio. Good team out of the MAC. Travels to West Point to take on Army in their house. Let's see what Anthony thinks about the Academy Spotlight game. My first instinct was to pick the Red Hawks, who have tested themselves against Cincinnati and Minnesota, and they have. They've played good, tough football, Miami of Ohio has. They've had a couple losses, but they still have played those games tough. To pull an upset, but I just cannot see Army losing this game at home. Give me the triple option, the Black Knights, and Sergeant Holka's big toe. Good old Stripes reference, love that. He says, Army with Army training, sir. Anthony likes Army. Charlie likes Army. I like the Red Hawks. I like Miami of Ohio to go in there to get it done. Another disagreement. I'm giving the MAC lots of love this week. This game they win, and Western Michigan. We'll see how this one plays out too. Can't wait to see it. Now time for our non-Power 5 Spotlight game. And what a game this is. And I read Anthony's comments, and I highly agree with this. The worst thing I see about this game, I love it, is I don't want one of these two teams to lose because they're both out to 3-0 starts. Love both of these teams, but someone's got to lose. This is UTSA, the Roadrunners, at Memphis. Both teams undefeated. What a matchup this is going to be. Memphis coming off that big win last week against Mississippi State. UTSA traveled to Illinois and got a victory. So both squads have a victory over Power 5 opponents. What a matchup this is. Let's see how Anthony sees this one coming out. I love everything about this game except the fact that someone has to lose. Agree? Respect? Outstanding matchup between two teams that could or should conceivably win their respective conferences. I absolutely agree. Both of these two teams, whoever loses can still win their conference. Both great programs, good teams. Let's see. But he says, I'll take the Roadrunners' running game and defense to come through over the Tigers' offense. So he likes the Roadrunners. Charlie likes Memphis. I also like UTSA. So another disagreement among us three. Next game is our FCS matchup game, FCS Spotlight game of the week. I'm giving lots of love to the land of Lincoln, the state of Illinois, my birth state. Love it. Family still lives there. Some family, friends. And also SIU. I spent several years as an SIU instructor. So spent lots of time in Carbondale. Love the area. Love the school. So this week's FCS Spotlight game is the Illinois State Redbirds travel to SIU to take on the Salukis, who are ranked number 8 in this week's FCS poll. Anthony says Salukis played K-State real tough in the Little Apple 2 weeks ago, which they did. I think they lost by a touchdown. That was the game that Skylar Thompson was knocked out for Kansas State. So SIU, great showing on the road, so he's right about that. They get a big win in the Valley at home over a tough Redbird squad for vlog host Blair. Well, thank you, brother. I love that. So he likes SIU. I like the Salukis. So does Charlie. Go Dogs. Get it done. Now it's time for our Spotlight game of the week. Love this game. It's going to be must watch. It's the Fox Big Noon kickoff. So kickoff here in the Central Time is 11. Big game at the hollow grounds of Soldier Field in Chicago. Number 8 Wisconsin meets up with number 12 Notre Dame. And what a blue blood matchup this is going to be. Two teams, very physical, similar styles. Can't wait to see it. But I think it's really going to come down to the quarterback play. So, yeah, I mean, a lot to be shown here. Can Graham Mertz take care of the ball for Wisconsin, not turn it over? I mean, the guy comes in very hyped, highly recruited. He's got the skills. Maybe not the skills that kills quite yet, but has continued to just make poor decisions at the worst times? Or can Jack Cohen, as I mentioned earlier in the show, can he throw against the Wisconsin defense? He might be forced into that position. That's what it's going to come down to. So let's see how Anthony sees this game turning out. Anthony says in this week's Munster matchup, Munster cheese, the dairy state for Wisconsin, very, very clever. I say Monterey Jack Cohen and the Irish ricotta. No chance against Wisconsin. Badgers provolone, their medal. So prove their medal and get a Gouda non-conference win for the Big Ten. Touchdown Jesus, feeling blue while Bucky rock and roll all night, and Havarti all the next day. I love the cheese references. I know I might have maybe slaughtered some of them. I should have probably practiced that before I went on the air. My apologies, Anthony, to you, the Black and Gold family. He likes Wisconsin. I like Wisconsin in this game. So does Charlie. Go Badgers. We like it. Wow, what a show. And right now, to kind of tell you where we are with picks, 11-4 is our guest picker to this point. Brett, we'll see if Anthony, my brother, can do better. My sweet brother Noomsy, Charlie and I are tied, deadlocked at 28-17, 62% on the year. I definitely want to get to 70 to 75%. I got time. So watch next week's Week 4 review show, give you the updated standings and how we did. But thank you. What a show. What an episode. Loved it. Feel free. Once again, like, share, subscribe. I appreciate your time. I can't wait for this week's games. To all of you at home, I'm going to log off, change, grab myself a quick lunch. Probably go out, play some golf this afternoon, maybe go on a long bike ride. It's low 60s right now, very fall-like. I love that. Going to take full advantage. But whoever you are, wherever you're watching, enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the football, and I can't wait to see you next week. So thanks for watching the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. Peace, prosperity, progress. See ya. Bye.